13 of the fantasy basketball season, and here's a few guards I would look to sell high and trade this week. The first guy is Russell Westbrook of the Washington Wizards. On the season, Westbrook, he's ranked 136 in fantasy basketball, almost averaging a triple-double, 21.7 points a game, 9.5 rebounds, 10.3 assists, 1.3 steals, an awful 5 turnovers a game, 1.3 threes a game, 1% from the foul line, and 43% from the field. But the last couple weeks, he's ranked 45th in fantasy basketball, 26.8 points a game, 9 rebounds, 11.9 assists, 1.8 steals, 5 turnovers, 1.9 threes a game, 69% from the foul line, and 46% from the field. So Westbrook, he's pretty much a walking triple-double, and he's a player who's had some huge lines of late, better than he's had pretty much all season, and also with the free throw and the shooting percentage going up in the last couple weeks as well. But Westbrook, I just feel like he goes out there and he takes a lot of crazy shots, and he don't hit a lot of them like he used to anymore, and his percentages are hurting, the turnovers are hurting. But right now, he's a player I definitely could sell high after the last few games and triple-doubles he had, even with the bad percentages and the turnovers. March 17th versus Sacramento, 26 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, the triple-double there, and 6 turnovers. March 18th versus Utah, 35 points, 15 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 steals, 5 turnovers. March 21st at Brooklyn, 29 points, 13 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 steals, 8 turnovers. And last night versus the New York Knicks, it was a really off game for Westbrook, and these are the games we've seen a handful of times already this season. 14 points, 4 rebounds, 12 assists, 2 steals, 4 turnovers, and only 21% from the field. So Russell Westbrook, I think he's going to have more mediocre games like this. I know he's exploded since the All-Star break, but right now, while his value's still up there, he's a player I will look to trade off. And obviously, if this Washington team is going to keep losing ball games and be out of the race for the playoffs, I could see a lot of games where they're going to rest Westbrook and he's not going to play as much. So right now, I would sell him high, while the value's definitely up there right now. The next guard I would look to sell high or trade off is a guy he got traded for in the offseason, John Wall of the Houston Rockets. So John Wall, he came back from injury a couple nights ago. On the season, he's ranked 156 with 21.1 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 2 threes a game, 74% from the foul line, and 41% from the field for Wall. And since he's returned the last few weeks, 21.3 points a game, 5.3 rebounds, 8 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.3 threes a game, 72% from the foul line, and an awful 34% from the field. So John Wall, since he returned, he's been putting up big numbers, including a nice triple-double, even though he shot 8 of 30 from the field versus Toronto on March 22nd. But anyway, March 19th versus Detroit, 21 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 threes, 6 turnovers. March 21st versus the OKC Thunder, 24 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals. And a few nights ago, like I mentioned, versus the Toronto Raptors, 19 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, a 3. But he shot 8 of 30 for 26% from the field. But just off that triple-double alone, I would try to trade John Wall. Like I said, he's been banged up most of the season on and off, and he just returned from a knee injury as well. So Wall, he's on a bad team that's lost 21 out of the last 22 as Houston. And right now, I don't think Wall's going to complete the season and play in every game. So right now, after that triple-double, I look to sell him off and try to get someone decent for him who's more consistent and who's going to have more playing time, because I don't think Wall makes it towards the end of the season, and his numbers aren't that eye-popping as well this season. The next play is Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie Irving, since the James Harden deal, he's been on his best behavior, but now, once again, he's missed 3 games because of personal, and I feel like Kyrie Irving, he's going to do this a lot. Just when he's not into things, he's going to take a lot of personal days off and miss a couple weeks here and there, and that's not good for fantasy owners and the Brooklyn Nets, because when it's crunch time, will Irving be dependable and be there for the fantasy owners in the playoffs and be there for the Nets, who are trying to obviously win a championship this season? But Kyrie Irving, when he plays, he's a top 15, 20 player, maybe even better than that this season. On the season, he's ranked 23rd on the year, 28.1 points a game, 4.8 rebounds, 5.7 assists, 1.2 steals a game, 2.9 threes, 89% from the foul line, and 52% from the field in the last 2 weeks here. He's averaging 32.6 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 1.8 steals a game, 2.6 threes, 90% from the foul line, and 56% from the field. So Kyrie Irving, he's definitely a stud in fantasy basketball, obviously, and for this net team. And him and James Harden, they've built a great rapport with Kevin Durant, who's been out now, it seems like, for a month already with the hamstring and the protocol stuff going on. But right now, Irving, he's going to miss the next couple games at Utah. He's going to miss tonight, and then March 26th at Detroit. So that takes us all the way to March 29th when he could come back. But I feel like Irving, he's going to take off longer than the 3 days. I know he's a total stud. I know he puts up huge numbers. But he's a guy I definitely can't count on when it's big-time playoff games here in fantasy basketball. And I would trade him off, and I still could obviously get a great haul from him because the last 3 games he's played in, huge numbers as usual. March 15th versus the Knicks, 34 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, a steal, 4 threes. March 19th at Orlando, 43 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 threes. And March 21st versus Washington, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a 3. So he's pretty much 30 points a game or more. He'll get you 5 or 6 assists, a couple rebounds, and a few steals. But while his value's up there, this is the time to sell him off and get a good haul. The next guard's Evan Fournier of the Orlando Magic. So Evan Fournier, he's been a solid ball player the last few seasons for this Magic team. But with the trade deadline tomorrow, there's a lot of rumblings that Fournier, he's probably going to be traded. And obviously, I think it's going to happen as well because he's a free agent after the season. I don't think the Magic are going to bring him back, and they're trying to save some cap space and trying to get a good trade as well. So it depends where Fournier goes. But right now, I would sell him high with the uncertainty because if he goes to a contender, I think his playing time is going to take a hit. On the season, he's ranked 77th in fantasy basketball, 19.6 points a game, 3 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.1 steals, 2.8 threes a game, 79% from the foul line, and 45% from the field. In the last few weeks, Fournier stepped up, 25.3 points a game, 2.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.3 steals, 4.3 threes a game, 82% from the foul line, and 49% from the field. So Evan Fournier, he's shooting the ball great. He's a great three-point shooter, we know as well. And he's a decent assist guy and steal guy as well for fantasy owners. But with the trade deadline looming tomorrow, I don't think he's going to go to a team where he's going to have the ball in his hands as much and put up these big numbers. So I would sell him off while his value's skyrocketing. And the last 3 games he's played well. March 19th versus Brooklyn, 31 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 threes. March 21st at Boston, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 threes. And March 23rd versus Denver last night, 31 points, 1 rebound, 6 assists, a steal, 5 3-pointers. So he's on a hot tear. His value's going to go up in a trade as well. And Orlando's hoping they get a good haul for him. But I just don't think he'll land in an ideal spot where he's going to produce these type of numbers. So sell him high while he's putting up the big numbers. And the 5th and final guard I would look to sell and trade off this week is Collin Sexton of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Collin Sexton, it's been a good season for the third-year guard here in Sexton. So Sexton on the season, he's ranked 98th in fantasy basketball. 24 points a game, 2.8 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 1.1 steals, 1.7 threes a game, 47% from the field, and 80% from the foul line. In the last couple weeks, his numbers have been 27 points a game, 2.83 threes, 5 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 84% from the foul line, and 48% from the field. So Sexton, he's been on a tear, scoring 29 points or more in the last 3 out of 4 games, and I don't think he's going to sustain these crazy scoring games. And he's on a hot streak definitely right now, but while his value is at its peak, it's time to trade him off and get good value for him. March 17th versus Boston, 29 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 threes. March 19th versus the San Antonio Spurs. 29 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 threes. March 21st versus Toronto, the huge game for Sexton. 36 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 6 threes. And then March 22nd, we saw a decline in his game. 15 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. So those 3 games from March 17th to the 21st, he played way over his head as Sexton. And this is where fantasy owners, before the trade deadline, have to take the opportunity and sell a guy off high when he's putting up numbers that obviously he's not going to sustain or average. And right now, that's what Sexton's doing. So that's a few guards I look to sell high and trade here in Week 13 of the fantasy basketball season.